Hey, we're live on YouTube. Today is Thursday, April 29th, and this is our weekly developer check-in meeting. Before we get into the agenda, we should go around our virtual room and do some quick introductions. I will start. I am Jen Lampton. I'm joining from Oakland, California, and I'm very excited about all of the exciting stuff that's happening in Backdrop land these days. Let's see, Tim, do you want to go next? Tim looks frozen. Tim look frozen. Anyone else? Okay. Nate, how about you go next?
Yeah, I'm Nate Lampton in Oakland, California. And yeah, it's the last couple of days before code freeze. So I've got some time set aside to dedicate to reviewing and getting in everything that we can. So yeah, I'm excited to go over those items today. Let's go to Robert.
I'm Robert Lang from Bug Folder on Zulip and GitHub. I'm in Altadena, California, and I've been getting more and more involved in Backdrop. And I'll pass it to Joseph.
Hi, I'm Joseph from Las Vegas, Nevada. Just working on a whole bunch of things, mostly performance optimizations. And
Great.
Tim, I don't know if Tim is unfrozen yet.
Am I still frozen?
Oh, no, you're good.
That's weird. I can hear you guys. Okay. Well, I'm Tim. Apparently, I'm having some connection issues today. Sorry about that. I'm from Deerwood, Minnesota, and have been super busy. Just launched a Backdrop City CRM site today, which is cool, and have another one coming up in a couple of weeks that we'll be launching. So that's it. And yeah, I think that's everybody.
That's great. Thanks, everyone. Before we jump into our issue queue, I'd like to talk about a couple of contributed projects that have had new releases this week. So we have a new project, Smart Menu Options, which allows extensions for the Smart Menus library that's in Backdrop Core. Also a menu attach block module, which allows you to attach blocks into your menu, and a leaflet widget for GeoField, which looks really exciting. And I think last week we mentioned Flag Clear and WebForm Civi CRM integration, but it looks like they were released on Thursday. So I wanted to mention them again in case we didn't get to them during our last meeting. Thanks to all of our contributors who keep working on porting modules from Drupal and creating new modules specifically for Backdrop. It's great to see all the activity that's happening in Contrib. All right, let's turn it over to Nate to talk about what's going on in Core.
All right. Well, a couple weeks ago, let's say we'll go over the bug fix version first before we get to the minor release that code freezes for in a couple of days. So the bug fix version, we released 1.18.3 a couple weeks ago. It was a security release. So 1.18.4 is our next bug fix version that we will be putting out. Big thing that we have on our bug fixed radar is PHP 8 support. This year's 4772. I did take a look at it this week, and Joseph did most of the beginning work on that. It looks great. All of the code that was in the current pull is in the current pull request was all pulled over from corresponding 777 issues. Now that Lando supports PHP 8, on my local, I just flipped Lando to use PHP 8 and then rebuilt and then ran the tests through Lando. That made checking things a lot easier. But since we don't have the test bot running on PHP 8, it's unclear how many failures we're still getting on PHP 8. But running things locally, there's still a few or fair number of test failures. But my perspective on this now is that I did a bunch more porting of issues from Drupal 7 that add PHP 8 support, as well as some additional fixes that Drupal 7 doesn't have directly in core. Things like date module we ported from Contrib, and there are no PHP 8 support update support patches in the contrib module queue. So we have to do some of those fixes separately from what the Drupal core team is doing. So I compiled some of the additional fixes into the existing pull request, and that gets us a little bit further along as to fixing full test coverage. But we still have a ways to go. And so what I'm thinking on this now is that some of the remaining issues are particularly gnarly, like they're big patches. And so I feel that we should merge the pull requests that we have into core, maybe once it gets a little bit more manual testing, because it does make it so the backdrop is usable. Like you can install backdrop, all of the normal functionality works, but there's probably some situations where you'll run into an error if you're running PHP 8 and backdrop right now. So I wouldn't recommend that in like in a production environment. But we should merge that pull request as is and then make more follow-ups, is where I'm getting with this. And it would be nice if we could say that the backdrop 119 is PHP 8 compatible, even though that wouldn't necessarily be like a new feature, because it would also go into 118. But the timing is usually pretty good. If we can get a big thing into the bug fix release that corresponds with the new minor release, we can pitch it as a minor release feature. So yeah, anyway, it's looking really good. More testing would be greatly appreciated on that pull request. I don't think we want to push more fixes into it at this point, unless there's something that you run into like immediately after install or doing a normal thing like saving a piece of content. So, and then we'll compile other patches that still need to be applied with the objective of getting full test coverage passing on PHP 8. All right. That also brings up again that we need to do some work on our testing infrastructure to get it so that we can run more versions of PHP. Right now, we're only running 5.3, like the oldest version that we support, and PHP 7, which used to be new and now is quite old. So we need to be running like newer versions of PHP 7 and PHP 8 now. And probably means that we need to introduce at least 3 PHP version testing. The oldest version, a PHP 7 version, and a PHP 8 version probably should be run every pull request.
Do we want to run the latest PHP 7 or PHP 7.0?
Good question. I think that probably the latest version of PHP is probably the latest version of PHP 7 is where we should be, because PHP got increasingly strict from 7 to 7.1 to 2, 3, and then 4. That that if we run the latest version of PHP 7, I think that's likely to cause the most problems.
All right.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Well, I am sure that we have an issue number for that, but I'm not sure what number it is. I think that's probably all tied up in the like switch to using GitHub Actions for running our tests, which would give us a lot more control over things like that. Okay, let's see. And the only other issue we have slated for 118.4 that we're talking about during these meetings is 4798, an issue with menu links. If they've been translated into multiple languages, the active trail can get confused. 4798 has a pull request that fixes the problem, but it does not have test coverage yet, so it needs automated tests.
I have a question for that. Do you want the tests for that in the menu system or in the content translation system?
Probably in the menu system.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Let's see. So 119 is the next minor version that we are working on. It will be coming out May 15th. let me double check this. So May 1st is usually Code Freeze Day. It falls on a Saturday this year, which makes it so that May 2nd, the end of the weekend on Sunday, is the end of Code Freeze. Exactly when that time is always a little bit fuzzy, but yeah, probably in the evening of Sunday, May 2nd will be kind of when we finalize like the last changes in there. Then usually what that means is that the following day we release the preview release. So 119.0.preview will be coming out on the 3rd. And that will be the version that we kind of encourage people to do any testing on to make sure that we didn't introduce any regressions before the 2 weeks are up, and we release 119 officially on the 15th. 119 on the 15th. So let's see, what have we got to go through yet? Indigo Zella pulled up a regression that seems to have affected the Bootstrap Lite theme. That we added a new feature that CSS files can have custom attributes added to the HTML tag when it's added to the page. That issue was, 1 second, 4981 was that issue. And there's the new issue is 5070 is talking about this regression that we've added, that a PHP notice can be caused by an undefined variable if a theme or module is using hook CSS alter. So it's not a bad issue, but it is something that was introduced due to the addition of this new attributes array on CSS files. So 5070 is that issue that right now it's only just been filed. We do need kind of some steps to reproduce the issue, but yeah, and we'll need a pull request on top of that eventually. Let's see, next up, more features. Exposed file name filter for the media library dialog, issue 3293. Lauren is the advocate for this issue. This issue has been stuck with a challenging problem of the way that the markup is structured in the media library dialog. We do not have a pull request that actually solves this problem comprehensively. So at this point, we don't even have a solution that we think will work. It probably won't be completed for 119. Issue 3293 is that issue that needs some help. Issue 4127, advanced caching, that is support for cache tags and a dynamic cache max age header, issue 4127. Joseph is the advocate for this one. Let's see, it looks like we haven't seen any updates on this issue recently. The pull request really has been in a state of needing review for quite a while. Joseph, do you have anything that you'd like to add?
I actually think Gregory did a review of it a while back, but I haven't had time to respond to his comments.
Okay, that's quite fine. Yeah, I think this one has such far-reaching repercussions that it's really unlikely that we would be able to get it sorted out in the next couple of days. Like this will probably require not only getting some adjustments to the code to get it core ready, but then extensive testing to make sure that we don't have any side effects.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Let's see. Next on the list here, adding support for relationships to layout contexts, issue 2134. Doc Wilmot is the advocate for this one. Herb Duel and myself both gave this code reviews recently. We both have some minor suggestions to make. There was a renaming that still hasn't been completed there, that just naming of the class to something else that is a little bit more specific. But I did, in my full re-review, that minor renaming was one thing, and then I also had a suggestion that one of the new functions that's added really should probably be a method instead, And so we just need to move the code from one place to another. So both of those issues fundamentally are naming convention issues. But that's it. Like technically there's no real barrier there to getting that one completed. So I'm optimistic about 2134. And I think that just with some minor changes, we'll be able to get that one over the finish line. Also in the category of needing minor changes, the issue that Gregory Klonos is the advocate for, issue 2714, merging all of the update pages into a single page, is in a similar boat that it has an issue with the update block on the dashboard that is holding up the whole pull request, that the functionality to merge all of the update pages into a single page has been complete and has been approved by several people, but the dashboard block has a problem that seems to be holding up the works. So Gregory's route on that one, he said that he will just roll back the dashboard block changes, and we can get in the single page merging, which would be great. So that pull request currently needs work. I know Gregory has been super busy. If someone were to pick that up and do as he has advised and remove the dashboard block changes and make a new pull request that's just the update pages, I bet that he would appreciate that to get it unstuck. Let's see. And lastly, field has value visibility condition, issue 4728. Jen is the advocate for this one. It says no updates. Is there anything else you'd like to add, Jen?
No, I did a little work on it last week, but I don't have a pull request ready.
Okay. Let me check the 119 milestone to see if there's anything else. Looks like no. Okay. That's it for the status of 119 features. I mean, we have some features that already got merged in. These are the ones that are outstanding. And that's kind of where we are between now and Sunday. We'll see which ones of these we can get completed. It looks mostly like relationships and the update page seem like the ones that are very viable options for us to get completed for 119. Let's see. Next up on the agenda, we have initiatives. Initiatives are longer reaching features that may span multiple releases. I'm going to skip over documentation and ready to wear initiatives because those are kind of in the wrapped up state. Telemetry is the only active initiative. The idea being that we will collect usage information on people's backdrop sites and report them centrally on backdropcms.org, things like PHP version, web server version, and in the future, the way that they like which options they have turned on or off for certain features. Let's see, Tim is the initiative lead for telemetry. I think Tim and I are kind of working back and forth on trying to make something happen for 119. It's a little bit unlikely that such a thing would occur. I don't think we really have the time at this point. Yeah. Yeah, anything else, Tim, that I haven't checked in on telemetry otherwise?
No, I think our comments last week summed up kind of where things are at.
Yeah.
So I haven't had any chance since then. I'm going to try to make some time to sit down and look at it this weekend just to see if there's anything there, but I wouldn't guarantee anything.
Okay. Okay. We have a couple of issues that Indigo Zella raised in Zulip that we also could discuss. It looks like there's some performance issues regarding the modules page. So issue 5046 is the original issue that Alan Mells filed about 2 weeks ago. And it's a question about the function system rebuild module data which my understanding is that is the function that recursively searches every module in the modules directory, trying to find what modules are installed. And on the modules page, that list is regenerated because if you've dropped a new module in your modules directory, it should show up on the modules page when you visit it. But it appears as though from this bug report that it should only do that refreshing once per page load, and that potentially it's doing it lots of times per page load. So Alan Mells is describing this issue as there is a static cache inside of this function that doesn't seem to be working. Indigo Zella and Gregory have also been going back and forth, like trying to confirm the problem. And it looks like, overall, I haven't had time to read this whole issue, so I'm trying to summarize it real quickly, but looks like overall there's a problem here and that it is fixable. So issue 5046 is an issue that could use review. It looks like it would really substantially increase the loading of the modules page, which would be great. There's a follow-up issue that Indigo Zella also split off from that. It's issue 5052, questioning about like, should this function be using static caching in the first place? So this follow-up is, I'm trying to think of what it's actually doing here. It's the suggestion. So Indigo Zella is saying that it really should only be called once per page load, so it shouldn't need static caching in the first place. So I'm not quite sure what the repercussions of that is. That the first issue says if we fix static caching, then everything goes faster. Second issue, Indigo Zella is saying, should we even need static caching at all? Possibly that means that we shouldn't have been calling it multiple times in the first place. So interesting, two related issues. The first one is solving the performance problem. The second one looks like it is suggesting that we do some restructuring to make it so that that function shouldn't be getting called so many times in the first place. I think that sums it up. Jen, you looked at this a couple hours ago. Does that sound?
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like there's something wrong with backdrop static, so that all static caching is broken, or any random static cache could be broken, and that's the big problem. And then the other one is, why are we calling backdrop static for this function anyway? But I think the examples they were testing were modules page, but that function is called a whole bunch of other places. And so the static cache might not have been added for the modules page where it's only called once. It might have been added somewhere else where it might be in a loop, and they would wanted to make sure it wasn't called more than once. But I haven't looked at all those other 17 implementations or whatever they are. But yeah, it is, the caching issue is fascinating. I also mentioned in the other one where we could add some benchmarks before and after calling that cache, if we can figure out the other places it's called and see if it makes a difference or not.
Yep. Yeah, I'd love to get some profiling on this, like just before and after with the static cache. However, it seems like it'll be pretty clear, like if it's regenerating multiple times, how that would be detrimental, because it's doing a full directory recursive scan to try to find modules. I think if we can just show that it's getting called multiple times, it would be obvious that, of course, it would be slower if it's running a recursive check.
Yeah, that's the cache is broken issue. But the like, do we even need it or not, I think is where we need the benchmarking. So I'm like, I don't know why that was there, but
yeah, we'd have to do some scouring to see what functions call that function, and then work backwards and see
I posted a link in the
places
issue.
it might be coming from. All right. Well, issue 5046, Alan Mells is hoping that we can get some more eyeballs on it. Let's see, that was 2 days ago. He was hoping for some more feedback since this hasn't received anything in the past 10 days. So yeah, thanks Indigo Zella for surfacing that as an issue that we should take a look at. I do love performance fixes. I know Joseph does too. Hopefully his ears are ringing a little bit, saying, "Oh, your performance fix." It'd be great to get your eyes on that, Joseph.
Okay, I can take a look at that.
Thanks so much. And that's it. That's all we have on the agenda. Sorry, kind of really blitzed through it today. Do you guys have anything else that you would like to discuss in the next 10 minutes? No? Okay.
Hang on. There is an issue I'd like to get into into the next release. It's issue 3224, which is to basically I made a pull request for that, and what it does is it calls it is a module in Vocal for, I think it's hook config create, which the field module uses to trigger its creation of new database tables. And what that would do is it would allow the field module to create new database tables when you enable a module that has a field definition in its config directory.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Let's see. I'm taking a look at this right now. Maybe I'll post a comment on the pull request actually rather than talking about it, because it's a little deeply technical. I'm not quite sure what the answer would be on this. But yeah, this is a great issue. This would help a lot with the concept of like recipes or install profiles or modules that include field config, because without this, a module that includes a field export won't create the database tables, and it would not be particularly useful. Yeah. So yeah, this is a great issue. It is marked for 118.4, and looks like the pull request just needs review.
Yep.
Yeah, we should add this to our template so that we don't forget about it. I know that we've talked about it a couple times previously. Okay.
So yeah, that's just a thing I'd like to get in, so that maybe at the next Backdrop Live we can be like, yay, we made progress on recipes.
Yeah, exactly. Recipes are done. They're just modules. Okay. Awesome. Okay. Well, I guess maybe we should wrap it up for today then. Thank you everybody for joining. Really appreciate it as always. And we've got a couple more days to get in a couple more issues. Some things like the PHP 8 support, they're not necessarily held to that deadline because it can be completed anytime before the 15th, but of course the sooner the better. So all right, anything else?
I'm going to update my laptop to PHP 8 and just set up the test suite and just run it the whole thing to see what fails.
Yeah, if you haven't tried Lando, it's really a good way of managing it. It only took me, I had to update Lando to get to the new version, but it wasn't too bad. Like, I know your computer is totally bonkers. My computer's new, but it's a laptop, and it can run the whole thing with a concurrency of 10 in about 10 minutes. So
okay,
not horrible.
Is it able to do the conversion of the tables to my ISAM?
I am unclear. I don't think that it does.
So in the test suite, when you run it through the command line, I think I made it so that the UI does this too. it converts all the tables to my ISAM inside of a try catch loop so that if it fails, it'll just not error.
Ah, okay. So I'm not actually sure whether it's doing it or not then. Yeah, I'm
'Cause-
just running the normal backdrop recipe of Lando and then just swapping out the PHP version to PHP 8.
All right. Because on my desktop, it fails to do that. For some reason, it just doesn't support converting our tables to my ISAM.
Mhm.
And I don't know why. I think it's something in the MariaDB version that I'm using. But it basically causes all schema alters to be locking. And so essentially concurrency does nothing.
Oh, interesting.
So it basically it takes the same amount of time whether you're running it in concurrency 1 or concurrency 10.
Hmm.
Which is about, I think it's about an hour for me.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, well, then great thing about using Lando is that it'll be the same for both of us, right? So it doesn't matter what version of MySQL or Maria you're using, because Lando will make it the same.
Interesting.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you guys so much. We'll catch you guys on the internet and see you next week. Post feature freeze.
Okay,